Well, hello, writers. Welcome to episode number 413 of Ink in Your Veins. I'm Rachael Herron, and I'm here today with you with Helen B. Scheuerer, who has been on the show before. This is her second time here, and you're going to love this. We are talking about launching series. Really, we're talking about launching books, period. And she gave me something that blew my mind and changed my mind about doing launches. So please stick around for that. That is coming up. It's always a delight to talk to her. What is going on around here? I've just been doing a lot of revision. The Seven Miracles is due to my editor next week. So hopefully by this time next week, it will be off my desk. And if it isn't, there's going to be a problem. So hopefully by the next time you hear my voice, that will be done. I have been enjoying using my old pal Pacemaker to keep me on top of things. If you don't track your words when you are working toward a goal, I recommend trying any kind of tracking because what we track, we do. This has been proven. And I really like Pacemaker. It is a paid program, but I think that there's a free level if you just have one project, and it does a lot of math for you. And as I keep slipping behind, I keep having to pull from my buffer days, which I always build into deadlines. And now I'm out of buffer days, but that's okay. I usually run out of buffer days by the week before the book is due because usually I want a week of buffer and I never have it because I need to use those days. But last week, I have healed well from my training injury, my weight training injury. The muscle relaxants helped, and in a couple days I felt better. And now I'm just being very careful. I told my physical trainer, personal trainer, to not challenge me very much because I will do it. I'll do whatever she says and I will end up hurting myself. So she knows that about me now. And what else has been going on? I've been doing that. I'm getting ready to pre-launch the Kickstarter for Unstuck, which is my memoir about moving from the United States, about leaving the United States, selling everything we own, and moving to New Zealand. It's called Unstuck, an audacious hunt for home and happiness. And I'm saying it right here, right now, because I haven't launched it yet. I have not launched I haven't hit the pre-launch button. And if I say it here now, right now, and this goes live tomorrow, I would like you to go be able to click on that. So rachaelherron.com/unstuck. rachaelherron.com/unstuck. If you're sitting at your desk, please roll over to that and type it in. It'll take you to the Kickstarter pre-launch page. You don't have to do anything except hit the button that says, I'd like to hear about this when this is available, when this launches. I am not launching the Kickstarter. I still have to edit all the audio, and I want to have I want to have everything done and lined up before I do the actual Kickstarter itself. That is important for me. I want to be able to fulfill really rapidly after it funds, which is, you don't have to do, but I would prefer to do that. But the pre-launch is super important because then you will hear about it. And if this is something you have been interested in following, interested in knowing more about, there's a beautiful paperback and a beautiful hardcover of it. I'm also going to be putting up some very cool things that you will not be able to see on the pre-launch page, but you will be the first to know about it. And these will be capped. I'm going to be doing some one-on-one coaching sessions, some bundles of my books, and some other really cool stuff. Oh, plus the audiobook, of course. So you will want to know when it launches, right? Please come over and punch the pre-launch button. I would really love that. And I'm glad I'm saying this because now I'm going to actually make it live this afternoon. And now my heart is beating rapidly, but I'm really proud of this book. So that would be great. rachaelherron.com/unstuck. I had to think about it for a second. I think I'm struggling with a tiny bit of a head cold. But I tested. It's not COVID. I just need to get a little bit more sleep because honestly, I've been doing so many fun things. It's summer here, and in summer, everybody does everything, apparently. Winter, we hibernate in Wellington. But in summer, like this is a Thursday that I'm talking to you, and I was out at a beautiful dinner until after 11 last night. And I go to bed at 8 or 8:30. And we were at a fancy restaurant with friends, and it was fantastic. And and I'm tired. And this morning, I will just tell you this too. This is a secret, so don't tell anybody except anybody who is listening. But this morning, after that late night, I had to get up early because I was recording with Sasha Black because our next episode of The Black Heron will be coming out at the end of this month to our Patreon listeners who get it a whole month ahead of everybody else. And we were talking to a special guest star who is Joanna Penn. So if you're not a part of the Patreon, this would be a great time to go to rachaelherron.com. Nope, that's wrong. To go to patreon.com/Rachel, Rachael. You can sign up at the $1 a month level and you can listen to that episode when it drops at the end of the month because it's basically the Black Heron with Joe. And we just talk, we just gab. And I really thought it was a beautiful, far ranging, deep reaching conversation that will, of course, come out to everyone, but not until April or something. And it's only February now. So if you want to go over to patreon.com/Rachel and sign up so you can listen to that when it drops in about a week. But more importantly, maybe go to rachaelherron.com/unstuck. Oh, I'm nervous about saying that. But there, I did it. Okay, let's talk about Helen. I'm much more comfortable talking about other people. Here we go. Helen B. Scheuerer is the best-selling fantasy author of the series, The Oremere Chronicles, Curse of the Cyren Queen, and The Legends of Thezmarr. Her work has been highly praised for its strong, flawed female characters and its action-packed plots. She also publishes advice for authors with her nonfiction series, which is great, Books for Career Authors. Helen's love of writing and books led her to pursue a creative writing degree and a master's of publishing. She has been a full-time author since 2018 and now lives amongst, I can't speak today. I'm actually nervous about that pre-lunch. And now she lives amidst the mountains in New Zealand, where she is constantly dreaming up new stories. And here we go into the interview with her. Please enjoy and happy writing, my friends. Well, I am so pleased to welcome you back to the show. Will you please share your name and your pronouns with us?
Yeah, sure. I'm Helen Scheuerer or Helen B. Scheuerer, and I am she, her.
Thank you so much. You were on the show. We were just looking it up, episode number 348. And it was the title of that one. It was such an awesome show. Oh, that's right. We talked about calendaring, using your calendar as a superpower. And I
Sounds
love that.
about right.
Yeah, I love that as we're looking at you, if anybody's watching on the YouTube, your calendar is behind you and it looks just so beautiful. But we're not going to talk calendars today. If people are interested in your story, how you got to where you were, please go ahead and go listen to that episode. Today, though, we are going to talk about series because you have written an amazing book called How to Launch a Successful Series, and that's under your Helen B. Scheuerer name.
Yes, that's right.
So, can I just ask you what led you to write this book about launching series?
Well, basically, the first book I wrote, which was How to Write a Successful Series, and first nonfiction I wrote, um, Sasha, who you're also friends with, read it for me as a beta reader, and she basically told me that it wasn't one book, it was like three books. And
She told you
so
that your single book was a series when you were
yes,
writing about series. That's
correct.
hilarious.
Yes, I know. And yeah, so she was like, you should probably split this up into two or three different books. And it made so much sense as soon as she said it. And also, it's just the natural sort of follow on from the first book. Like once people have read that one, the natural question after that is, what do you do after you've written a book? So
Mhm.
yeah, and it just sort of, I think, lends itself well to my interests and my strengths, my strategy. I love all that stuff. So yeah, it was actually one of the easier books that I've written. It just sort of flowed out, which was really nice.
Oh, I call those the gift books when they just flow out of you
Mm,
and you don't have to fight every single day with them.
yep,
Can you tell us a little bit about your history with launching three fiction series? Is it now?
yep,
Yeah.
yep.
What does
Three.
your history look like with that?
So in 2017, I launched my first book, which is book one of a trilogy. And then from there, the second came out in 2018, the third came out in 2019, and then I did a prequel collection in 2020. So the first series, it came out one book a year. The next series was Curse of the Siren Queen. Both of these ones were epic YA fantasy. And so the second series, I did two books a year. And then in 2023, I launched my first adult venture, which
Mhm.
is romantic fantasy. And I launched two out of the four books in that series, plus a standalone that acts as a prequel. So it sort of ties in. And
That
that's sort
makes
of where we're at.
that makes my brain just reel, like even just being able to say those things. And you also said the word epic in there. And epic to me always means, holy crap, it's such a long book. So you're not even writing short books. Like, oh my goodness.
Correct.
What
They're all about 120,000 words or so, I'd say.
goodness. That is why you are also a calendar queen. You have to be. What are some of the common mistakes that authors make when launching a series, or maybe what were some of your mistakes that you learned from when launching series?
Well, the fun thing about launching series is you learn a whole bunch of new mistakes every time you do it. So I think the first series, one of my mistakes was probably not really planning, which is a weird one for me because I'm a planner even without all the indies publishing stuff. I want to know what I'm doing on the weekend. I want to know what's for dinner throughout the week. Like I'm pretty
Me
militant
too.
with that stuff. Um, but yeah, with the first series, I think I didn't anticipate it going as well as it did, and therefore when it did do well, the the plan wasn't there to sort of support what I was doing. And it all
Mm,
worked out fine and everything, but there were definitely moments where for me as someone who likes planning, as someone who's an outliner, I hadn't outlined the series or the next book. And so when I got to book two, book three in the series, I had definitely backed myself into some corners there. And then, that's the craft side of things. But the launching side of things is then you've got to move an editor around. Then you've got to, move the release date or this, that, and the other. And so it's sort of, I think that is stress that can potentially be avoided if you have a think about your goals and your strengths and what you can sort of align those with when you're planning the launch of a series. Um, the second series was the mistake was not managing my expectations.
oh, tell me more about that.
Well, I'm sort of this weird outlier where the first series did very well, and I don't think I really understood at the time how well it did, and that was kind of an anomaly. And so then when firstly, I did the second series. There was essentially a year-long gap between the end of that first series, with the exception of the prequel collection that I'd done, which I thought counted as a full-length novel in like release world, and it doesn't. um, but I thought I'd essentially bought myself a year of time to get ahead with this next series, put into place all these lessons that I'd learned, and basically by the time the launch of the first one in the next series came along, I'd had a massive drop in income because I hadn't had a full length release in over a year.
Mhm,
Um, and I was just expecting that book to do exactly what the first book had done in terms of finance, in terms of reception, in terms of
mhm,
all that stuff. So that was a particularly difficult thing to wrap my head around, as then I had to launch four books in that series and muster up, not only the enthusiasm to write the story, but then to promote it when it wasn't necessarily doing as well as I wanted it to. So that was quite hard, and I'm trying now to manage expectations in a much more healthy way.
well, let me, if you
So
don't
yeah.
mind going a little bit deeper into that, because I find that compelling and real and honest. And, you said you found that difficult to manage emotions. We're always talking about emotional management in writing. How did you, how did you enter book? I'm guessing, and tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm guessing that by book three is when you were like, oh no, what am I doing? Because now book one has launched, maybe book two is getting launched. You're writing book three. How did you show up at the page every day and continue going?
Oh, I it's a hard one because it was quite a while ago now, and you tend to sort of
Yeah, it's like childbirth, right?
compartmentalize that. Yeah. um, but I think I always loved the story itself, so that helped. And
Yeah.
I truly believed that the series itself was much better on a craft level, was much better on like this deeper level than the first series was, because I had learnt so much just on a craft, sort of level to then develop. And I was excited to put those lessons into play into this new series. And the thing was with that series, like while financially it wasn't, this superstar, the people who did read it, the small group of people that did read it, really loved it and were really vocal, like in my inbox, telling me this got me through a really hard time. This, I've been waiting for this and I've taken a day off work to read it, all that sort of stuff. So I think on those darker days where I was like, maybe I should think about getting a job, I would look at those nice messages and those emails and just like it's like that thing from Finding Nemo, like just keep swimming,
Just
just
keep
keep
swimming.
swimming.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
And there's not much more magic to it. That was just sort of it.
but that's huge magic because I'm exactly the same way. I've had books that do really well, and then I've had books that absolutely like they don't even flatline. They like flatline and then dip. Not sure how that is
Mm.
possible, but as long as every book I write is better than the one before, and that's on my totally subjective gaze. It
Yeah.
matters to me what I think about it and how much I love it. Um, then if the sales are devastating, it hurts so much less. Like the last traditionally published book that I published just has sold fewer copies than anything ever, and I don't care because it is my best book that has been published so far, and I love it. Would I love to make more money on it? Yes, but if I had done something like chase a trend that I didn't love
Yeah.
and then be backed into a corner of writing more books in a series I didn't care for and not be making money, I think that's probably I don't know how people continue doing that. And in fact, I think they
Mm.
probably usually don't. So
Yeah.
huge tip to
Absolutely.
love what you're doing and re-fall in love with these. Um, let's see. So along these lines, as you have been thinking about series and launching, what strategies have you used to drive sales of your fiction series?
So it's changed each series, and I think I've tried something new with each series. So the
Cool.
first series I learned, and also just like a disclaimer, the first series came out like 6 years ago, the first book or so, and that was a very different time. So what worked then probably
Yeah.
doesn't work now. Um, but that first series, I live launched each book at 99 cents and kept it on sale for like a week before raising the price. I didn't do pre-orders. Um, so that was sort of like the pricing strategy. I did a huge outreach marketing like push where I emailed hundreds back then of bloggers who were doing like similar stuff to what we see on Bookstagram now, but it was blogs. And I did interviews, I did guest posts, I did, I don't know, like character interviews and stuff for people on their blogs. So that was a massive push, and that was, yeah, that was very effective back then. And I did sales throughout the course of the series lifespan. So like when, book two came out, book one went back on sale. When they were all out, I did like a big sale of them all together, like things
Mhm.
like that. With the second series, I opted to launch at full price, just because it had been so long since the previous release and the strategies that I was seeing online had changed quite a lot. Um, and I did, I think, a shorter pre-order for that first book. So I think maybe it was on pre-order for 2, 3 weeks, just so I could have the link and schedule everything.
Mhm.
Um, and then I did pre-order chaining. So at the back of the book that just came out, I would link to the book that was coming out in future. And that was really effective on a small scale, just because the success of that series was small scale. But that I took into the new series that I'm doing now, and it's been very successful on a much bigger scale. And
Awesome.
so now I'm launching at full price. I haven't done any sales on the current series just because I haven't actually needed to, which has been really nice. And I'm still doing that pre-order linking at the back of the books. Um, with each new series, I tend to do a free prequel story, just like a short story or novella to get people on my mailing list to explain like something minor in the book. So you don't have to have read this story, but it's kind of a hook if you have. And that's been very effective. So those are some of the things that I've experimented with in the last, yeah, about 6 years, I think, with each series. And it's kind of trial and error with each one. Like what works for one might not work for another, or something that has worked doesn't work. So you just sort of play around with it. And that's also the beauty of series. Like with each launch, you're breathing life back into the funnel of the series, and you get to try new things along the way, which is fun. Keeps it fresh.
You're breathing life into it and you're remembering what you loved about it. And I really like that idea of offering a short story or something for each book rather than I see it a lot for series, of course. But you mean you would have like a little something to give them for each
It's
book? That would be
so
cool.
it's changed. So for the Oremere Chronicles, which was my first series, I did 3 short stories before the first book came out.
Mm.
Between the release of each book in the main series, I did 3 more short stories because there was
Wow.
a year long
Yeah.
gap between releases. And so it just kept that audience warm, I think. And
Yeah.
then I was able to repurpose all those stories, put them in a prequel collection, and sell that. With Curse of the Siren Queen, I wrote 3 prequel novelettes, I suppose. They're not quite novellas, and released them all before the main series came out as like a lead magnet. That was really effective. Um, with this new series, I did 1 prequel short story that introduced us to the heroine of the series. And then instead of doing prequel stories in between each book, what I've done is taken a steamy scene from each book that's just released and then flipped the point of view. So if it
Oh,
was from
yes.
the heroine's point of view in the book, then if you sign up to get the newsletter, you get the flipped perspective of that steamy scene from the hero's perspective. And that's been very popular. So it's just like these little things to keep people's appetites going while they're waiting for the next book.
I think that is such a smart one, the flipped steamy scene, because it's titillating. It is grabbing. People want it. And also it's easy to write because you've
Yes.
already blocked it and the dialogue is already set. All you're doing is
Hmm.
going internally to see how that person is being
Hmm.
affected by this encounter. It's so flippin' smart. All
Yeah,
right.
and it's
So
fun too, like to do
yeah.
it. Just low effort, high yield fun.
And everybody likes it. We like it. They like it.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. I'm gonna try to remember that one. Um, so taking it a little bit of a different direction, are in-person launches worth it? We've been talking about like, the virtual kind of launching. Are in-person launches worth it?
So I've done like a range of different ones. So when I first started, I did massive in-person launches at a pretty popular bookstore in Sydney, and there were about 100 people per book launch. I spent quite a lot of money on, drinks and food and, making it really nice for everybody. Um, they were a lot of effort. I wouldn't say that they were financially rewarding. Like I might have covered costs, if not just missed out on covering costs. But what they did back then anyway was lend a sort of sense of social proof to the whole
Mm,
book, to the whole like sort of, because also that was 2017, 2018, 2019. Particularly with the first launch, when I told people I was going indie, it was still a bit like, oh, it's not, you're not really publishing.
right.
And as soon as people saw, my book in the window of a very like nice bookstore, as soon as they saw the photos from the event, as soon as they saw the invitation, blah, 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 like it lended this sort of social proof. And also it generated so much content for me to use throughout after the book had come out, the photos from the event, people talking about the event, people sharing their own photos, um, all that sort of stuff was really good. And also the bookstore, because I had the event at their store, then promoted the book and promoted the event. So there was a lot of sort of intangible, like stuff that you can't really measure in terms of like sales, but they were really good just for general promotion, general buzz, and also, from like a personal side of things, like you actually get to celebrate your book launch and it like you have a party and it's quite fun and it's this milestone. Whereas I've sort of changed things now. Like I just sit at home when I launch a book. There's nothing really special going on. Maybe I do an Instagram live, but usually it's me and my partner. We get pizza and a bottle of wine and that's it. So it's very low key. Um, I have also done like a smaller in-person event where the local writers centre put on like a Q&A thing, and it was just me and one other woman interviewing me at the front. There was maybe like 30 people or so, and that was a lot more intimate. I did a signing and that sort of stuff. I guess in terms of in-person events, it's really about what your goals are. If it's to, make a load of money, then I think you need to do research in terms of, the venue that you're at, what sort of percentage are they going to be taking, and what are they going to be offering in return in terms of like staff, in terms of what the venue's like, that sort of stuff. But if it's to celebrate, if it's to get the word out, if it's to generate buzz and content for you to reuse, and I reuse pictures from that launch from 2017, even now.
Absolutely.
So like there are all these sort of unforeseen benefits. I don't think I've ever like made a shitload of money from an in-person event, and that's very different to a lot of other people. Like they might go to like conventions and stuff and sell merch and all that, extra stuff. But for me, it was more about the celebration and generating that excitement and buzz that then carried through, and it probably did then result in sales, but not necessarily sales I can track. Like maybe someone
Yeah.
saw the party or saw the book in the shop window, but then went and bought it online or read it in
Yeah.
KU. So yeah.
You have single-handedly converted me back to the belief I will do a launch for my next book because I cannot tell you how much I hate them. I hate them with every fiber of my being because I get devastatingly nervous beforehand to the point where I'm usually sick. And then I'm usually sick the day leading up and then a migraine the day after, because the celebration part does not work for me. I am I'm a proud little tall puppy. Like I'm very proud of myself, but please don't look at me. Don't talk to me about my accomplishments. But the idea of using it for content generation is smashing. Like that is
Mm,
the smartest, best reason to do it. And that gives me an actual reason to do it. I'm good at social media. I'm good at connection. I can usually get 50 to 120 people at a launch. I always have been able to, and
mm.
I'm lucky about that. And I've hated them so much, but I never had a reason to do it. And I swore that the last one I did would be the last one ever. But you have just changed my mind because you're right. The social proof and and not even if I don't enjoy the celebration part of it, the people who care about me and care about my books and my readers, they care about the celebration. They want to see the
Yeah,
celebration. I want to
absolutely.
see that
Yeah.
from my writer friends and writers I don't know. I want to see them at their party holding up their book with that cheesy big grin on their face. Wow, I did not I really, really, when I asked are in-person lunches worth it, I was 100% sure you were going to say, "Nah, don't do them. They're waste of time." Wow. Okay, I regret and
It's
I'm also
it's
very
funny
glad.
because well, it's funny because like I don't actually do that sort of huge event now. I just don't have the capacity for it. But it's also because I'm releasing 3 fiction books a year,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the sort of, especially like as I'm an introvert, and an event
Me
like
too.
that, it takes a lot out of me. And
Yes.
after every one of those big ones, I had to like go into my cave for like two
Yes.
weeks after.
Big
So
time.
yeah, it depends like what sort of person you are as well, and also how many you're intending to do, because you've got to conserve that energy for actually writing.
Speaking of conservation of energy, can you tell us a little bit about, oh, let's go into a little calendaring now because I love it. Um, how do you personally, I know this is different for everybody, but how do you uh, move your time around between creation of the words and managing publication, managing launches?
Yeah, that's something I find very difficult because, well, firstly, my number one strength is focus. And so
Wow.
I
That's
really
right.
struggle.
Lucky.
Well, I really struggle to do more than one thing at once, and not
Mm.
just like, okay, one day, for this one day, I'm going to write. It's like for these 4 weeks, I'm going to write and not do anything else. And so the admin just tends to build and build and build. And especially like right now, I'm in the middle of drafting the next a new series starter. So that's already like more sort of work to me than a book 2 or a book 3, because I'm still world building, I'm still figuring stuff out. But I'm drafting, and in less than a month, the third book in my current series comes out. And so, for example, today I had my arcs go out. I had my street team email go out. I had everybody joining Discord. I've had notifications going off on Instagram because everybody's got their arcs and everybody's really excited, which is wonderful. But it's like really messing with my like focus tunnel of I am just here to get the words down. And so, in an ideal world, how I would do it is just batch everything. So, for these 4 weeks, I draft. For the
Mhm.
next 2 weeks, I edit. Then I send it off to my beta readers. And while they've got it, I either outline the next book or I give myself an entire week for marketing and admin to catch up on everything that I missed in the last like 6 weeks or whatever it was. Um, that has worked pretty well for me in the past. What I am finding currently is champagne problems. Like I'm doing quite well. And so the sort of problem of scale, like once you start doing well, it all sort of starts to snowball. And the admin that was once manageable is now 10 times as much. And
Yeah.
and it's not as easy to wait 6 weeks to handle things. And it just sort of starts creeping into the periphery. So yeah, I don't have an answer for you really. I just at the
I'm
moment I'm
actually
working
I'm
on the
relieved.
weekends.
At the moment, I'm sorry I cut you off. What do you do?
Oh, just on the at the moment I'm working on the weekends a lot like that. It's
Oh,
unfortunately creeping into
yeah.
I don't want to mess with my Monday to Friday writing. So guess what I'm doing on the weekend? I'm replying to emails, scheduling
Yeah.
social media, that sort of stuff, which and I know it's not sustainable. I can feel it coming. I can feel that burn. But right now I don't know how else to manage it. So
Yeah.
we're just gonna keep swimming.
Okay, that does make me feel better though. That is a little bit of a relief that you don't have this the magic bullet for it.
Unfortunately not. No.
All right. So, last question for this. What do you personally love about launching in series?
I think we touched on it earlier. The fact that sort of when you're launching the later books in the series, you essentially breathe new life back into the series as a whole.
Mm.
And I have seen that in a very like clear way with the current series that I'm working on. The first book came out in February 2023, so just under a year ago, and it has been a really, really strong seller since then. Where it has really gone like gangbusters was the second book came out in September and the whole thing just lifted again.
Ooh.
And it's just been so strong ever since. And that's only the second book. There's still book 3 and book 4 to come. And I'm sort of hoping, like from what I've seen with my previous series, depending on the scale, every time a new book in the series comes out, the whole thing gets lifted. And that's so refreshing to see that, you know, even though you're not releasing a standalone and you're trying to find a new audience, the promotion of that second, third, fourth book, people will see it and go, oh, what's that? That looks interesting. And then they'll go
And
and
to go
start
back.
book 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really motivating to see, particularly, you know, you might be in the midst of writing something really hard, but you can see it doing the job, which is good.
That is lovely. I am so pleased to see your success in not only doing the fiction series, but helping other writers write the series. And this book is called How to Launch a Successful Series. So thank you so much for being on the show. Where can we find you and all of the things?
Well, firstly, thank you so much for having me on again. I always love talking to you. I listen to a podcast pretty
Ah,
much every week.
and we're not far
So
apart.
yeah,
You're down on the South Island. I'm up here on the bottom of the
yeah.
North. So
I was going to ask you actually if you're going to the New Zealand Romance Writers
I
is
am.
it this year?
Are you
Oh,
go
amazing. I
are you
think I
going?
am too. Yeah, yeah.
Great. It's going to be such a party this year because you've heard that the Sasha Black is going to be in the
hmm
country. It's going to
Yep.
turn the country upside down. Yeah, I'll be there.
Exactly.
Excellent.
Awesome. Um, so yeah, where people can find me, helenscheuerer.com is the best place. And up in the menu, there's like a section for authors, which will have like all the information you need. And the nonfiction books are available wide. My fiction books, if you're into young adult fantasy or epic romantic fantasy for adults, they're on Amazon in KU. So yeah, that's about it.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Helen, for being here again. And I look forward to seeing you later this year.
Thank you.